So ayun, good morning third year and fourth year students. So we are here no para sa ating step review para sa subject na readings and Philippine history. So I prepared here 20 item questions, then every after the question magkakaroon tayo ng rationalization. Okay? So let's start. Ayan. For number 1, a student says history is simply a collection of dates, names, and events that happened in the past. Now, which response best explains why this understanding of history is incomplete? Letter A. History focuses only on political events and leaders. B. History involves the critical interpretation of evidence about the past. C. History is based entirely on stories passed down by older generations. Or D. History is mainly concerned with memorizing important dates. So the answer for number 1 is letter B. Okay? Because history is not simply about memorizing dates, names, places, and events. So these facts are important pero mas importanteng maintindihan po natin no kung ano yung nangyari, bakit nga ba ito nangyari, paano natin nalaman na nangyari ito at anong evidence yung sumusuporta sa historical claims. Because in studying history, historians examine different sources and perspectives. So hindi sapat na sabihin lang po natin na this happened in this year. We also need to analyze the circumstances surrounding the event and understanding the evidence behind it. Kaya sa pag-aaral po ng ating history, no, it requires critical thinking, analysis, interpretation, and evaluation of evidence, not just memorization. Okay? So next number. For number 2, sabi dyan, a researcher is studying the Philippine Revolution. Which of the following would be considered a primary source? A 2020 textbook discussing the Philippine Revolution. B. A documentary produced by a historian in 2015. C. Emilio Aguinaldo's true version of the Philippine Revolution. Or D. A journal article analyzing Aguinaldo's writings. So ano ba yung sagot dito sa number 2? So the answer is, yes, letter C, Emilio Aguinaldo's true version of the Philippine Revolution. So a primary source provides, we all know naman, no direct or first-hand evidence about a historical event, person, or period. So true version of the Philippine Revolution is considered a primary source because it presents Emilio Aguinaldo's own account and perspective regarding the Philippine Revolution. However, importanteng tandaan din po natin no, uh, na being a primary source does not automatically mean na everything written in it is completely objective or accurate. It is still necessary to examine the author's background, the author's purpose, perspective, and possible limitations. So secondary sources naman, on the other hand, are generally created later to analyze, to interpret, or to explain historical evidence. Okay, so let's move now with number 3. So number 3, a historian discovers an old document allegedly written during the Spanish period. Before analyzing what the document says, the historian checks its age, origin, authorship, and whether the document is authentic. So what process is being applied? Letter A, internal criticism. Letter B, external criticism. Letter C, contextualization. Or letter D, historical interpretation. So what is the answer? So ang sagot po rito sa number 3 is, yes, letter B, external criticism. Ginagamit po ito para malaman kung authentic ba or genuine ba yung isang historical source. For example, kung may document na sinasabing galing sa Spanish period, kailangan muna nating malaman or alamin kung sino ba yung gumawa nito. Kailan ba ito ginawa? Saan nga ba ito nagmula? At kung original ba talaga ito? Once established the authentic, once na-establish na natin na talagang authentic si source, no? Tsaka po natin masusuri kung yung content ba nito is reliable din. So dito na papasok si internal criticism. So dito natin tinitingnan kung credible ba, consistent ba, and reliable yung information na nasa loob mismo ng source. So para madaling matandaan, kapag sinabi po natin external criticism, nakafocus po siya sa authenticity ng source, while si internal criticism naman, nakafocus naman siya sa credibility ng content. Okay? So next, number 4. Ayan. So number 4, Antonio Pigafetta's account of the first voyage around the world is valuable to historians primarily because A. It provides a first-hand European account of the expedition and encounters during the voyage. B. It presents a complete and unbiased history of all Filipino communities. C. It was written several centuries after Magellan's expedition. Or letter D. It contains only information about European political system. So ano yung sagot dito sa number 4? So the correct answer is, letter A. Okay, mahalaga yung account ni Antonio Pigafetta because he was part of the expedition and recorded his observation about the voyage and also the people, the places they encountered. So his account gives historians valuable first-hand information about the expedition and the European encounters with communities in the Philippines. However, kailangan din po nating tandaan, no, na si Pigafetta ay isang European. So, possible na may European perspective dito sa source na ito. Therefore, no, his observations may reflect his own background, his own beliefs, assumption, and understanding of the people and practices he encountered. So, valuable, masasabi natin valuable naman yung source ni Pigafetta, but still, no, we should be critically analyze and contextualize the source. Okay, so let's move now with number 5. Ayan, number 5, a student uses Juan de Plasencia's customs of the Tagalog to understand the social organization and practices of pre-colonial Tagalog communities. What should the student do first to avoid treating the account as an unquestionable description of all Filipinos? So, ang ating choices ay A. Assume that all communities had exactly the same customs. B. Consider the author's background, purpose, and historical context. C. Ignore the author's observation because he was Spanish. Or letter D. Replace the source with a modern textbook. So what is the answer for number 5? The answer is letter B. Consider the author's background, purpose, and historical context. We all know naman no, that Customs of the Tagalog na sinulat ni Juan de Plasencia, isa po siyang importanteng source for understanding the aspects of Tagalog society and practices. Pero hindi po natin dapat i-assume na yung mga customs na na-observe niya ay exactly the same sa lahat ng communities sa Philippines. We need to consider the author's background. We need to consider also his purpose, his perspectives, and historical context. So mahalaga rin na maintindihan no, that Philippines before and during the early colonial period had diverse communities with different customs and practices. So therefore, we should use the source carefully and avoid overgeneralization. Okay, so let's move now with number 6. And number 6, two historians provide different interpretations of the same historical event. Which statement best explains why this can happen? So the choices are letter A, one historian must always be lying. B, historical events have no factual basis. C, Historians may interpret the same evidence differently because of perspective, context, and available sources. And letter D, only the newest interpretation can be considered correct. So what is the answer? So the answer for number 6 is letter C. Ito yung idea behind the one past, many histories. The event itself happened in the past, no, but historians can have different interpretations of the event depending on the evidence they use. So the question they ask and the perspective they take. For example, two historians can study the Philippine Revolution but focus on different aspects. One may emphasize political causes, while other or another may focus on its social or economic conditions. So hindi ibig sabihin na dahil different ang interpretation ay automatically meron ng nagsisinungaling. So what matters is whether the interpretation is supported by evidence and sound historical reasoning. Okay, so let's move now with number 7. Okay, number 7, a researcher wants to understand the values expected from members of the Katipunan. Which source would be most directly useful? A. Political cartoons from American period. B. Emilio Jacinto's Kartilyo ng Katipunan. C. The 1987 Constitution. Or letter D. A modern book about Philippine taxation. So what is the answer for number 7? Okay. So yung tamang sagot po is letter B, Emilio Jacinto's Kartilyo ng Katipunan. Okay? It is directly related doon po sa tinatawag nating principles, teachings, and values of the Katipunan. No, it provides an understanding of the ideals expected from members of the organization. It also discusses important principles concerning proper behavior, respect for others, uh, doon sa pagkakapantay-pantay and also sa character. Kaya kung yung objective ng researcher 'no ay malaman kung ano ba yung values and principles ng Katipunan, yung Cartilla is highly relevant source because it directly reflects the teachings associated with the organization. So that's it. So let's move now with number 8. Okay. For number 8, a historian compares Emilio Aguinaldo's true version of the Philippine Revolution with other historical accounts of the revolution. What is the main reason for doing this? Okay, so ano ba yung choices natin dito? Letter A, to determine which sources has the longest narrative. B, to identify differences in perspective and interpretation. Letter C, to eliminate the need for primary sources. Or letter D, to prove that Aguinaldo's account is automatically correct. So ano ba yung tamang sagot? The correct answer is letter B. When historians compare different accounts, they are trying to identify ano ba yung pagkakahalintulad, ano ba yung pagkakaiba? Ano ba yung perspectives? Ano ba yung possible biases? And also the contradictions. Aguinaldo's account is valuable because it provides his own perspective and experiences regarding the revolution. However, because he was directly involved in the event, his position and experiences may have influenced how he presented the certain situation. So therefore, comparing his account with other sources allows historians to develop a broader and more balanced understanding of the Philippine Revolution. So that's it. Okay, so let's move now with number 9. Ayan. Number 9. A political cartoon from the American era depicts the relationship between Filipinos and American officials through satire. Why can such a cartoon be considered a valuable historical source? Letter A. Visual sources can reveal political attitudes, criticisms, and social conditions of a period. B. Political cartoons contain no opinions or biases. C. Cartoons are always more accurate than written sources. Or letter D. Cartoons only provide entertainment and have no historical values. So what is the answer for number 9? The answer is letter A. Visual sources can reveal political attitudes, criticisms, and social conditions of a period. So political cartoons, they are valuable historical sources because they can reveal political attitudes, criticisms, conflicts, and social conditions during a particular period. They often use symbols, exaggerations, humor, and satire to communicate a particular message. So through these elements, historians can examine how certain political issues were viewed or criticized at that time. However, a political cartoon should still be critically analyzed because they represent a particular perspective or point of view. Okay? So number 10. Number 10. Why is land ownership considered an important historical issue in the Philippines? Letter A. Land ownership has been connected to social, economic, and political relationship across different periods. B. Land ownership became important only after 1986. C. Land issues are unrelated to Philippine social structure. Or letter D. Agrarian reform concerns only agricultural technology. So what is the answer? So yung tamang sagot po dito sa number 10 is letter A. Land ownership, it is not simply an agricultural issue, no? Connected po siya sa social relationships, economic opportunities, livelihood, political power, and inequality. So throughout Philippine history, issues involving land ownership, land distribution, farmers, no, sa mga tenants and landowners have been connected to different government policies and social conflicts. Kaya importanteng pag-aralan yung agrarian reform historically because it helps us understand the relation between the land, between the wealth, the power to their farmers, to the landowners, and the government. So, hindi lang po ito tungkol sa agriculture. Okay? It is also about the social justice and the historical development of Philippine society. Okay? So, number 11. Number 11, which sequence correctly represents the major constitutional developments discussed in Philippine history? Letter A, from 1935 to 1897 to 1987 to 1973 Constitution. Letter B, from 1897 Constitution to 1899 to 1935 to 1943 to 1973 to 1986 to 1987 Constitution. Letter C, 1899 to 1935 to 1897 to 1973 to 1987 Constitution, and letter D, from 1943 to 1897 to 1935 to 1986 to 1973 Constitution. So what is the answer for number 11? So the answer is letter B. Kung mapapansin naman po natin, no, si A, C at D, si letter A nagsimula sa 1935 pero bumalik sa 1897. Same with letter C and letter D. So the sequence, no, sa letter B, no, the sequence represents the major constitutional developments across different periods of the Philippine history. So ulitin lang natin, no, 1897 is the Biyak na Bato Constitution. Si 1899 is the Malolos Constitution. 1935 is the Commonwealth Constitution. 1943 is the Constitution during the Japanese occupation. 1973 is the Constitution during the Marcos period. 1986 is the Freedom Constitution. And then 1987, ito na yung kung anong constitution meron tayo sa kasalukuyan. So mahalaga na hindi lang po natin i-memorize basta-basta yung mga dates, no? We should also connect each constitution to its political period and historical context. So that's it. Ulitin lang po natin, no? 1897, biyak na bato. Si 1899, Malolos Constitution. 1935 is Commonwealth Consti. 1943, ito yung Constitution noong panahon ng Japanese occupation. 1973, ito yung Constitution sa panahon ni Marcos. 1986, ito na yung Freedom Constitution. And then 1987 is the present Constitution. So let's move now with number 12. And number 12, the 1935 Constitution is historically significant because it was associated with the establishment of letter A, the First Philippine Republic, B, the Commonwealth Republic, C, the Second Philippine Republic, or D, the Fourth Philippine Republic. So, ano yung tamang sagot dito? Kung babalikan natin si number 11, makikita nyo, ano ba si 1935 Constitution? Okay? So, the answer dito sa number 12 is letter B, the Commonwealth Government. Okay? 1935 Constitution is associated with the Commonwealth government. The Commonwealth was an important transitional period in Philippine history as the country moved toward greater self-government and eventual independence. Kaya kapag nakita natin si 1935 Constitution, importanteng makonect po natin kaagad ito no, sa Commonwealth government and the political developments leading toward Philippine independence. Okay? So let's move now with number 13. Okay, number 13, which development is most directly associated with the Japanese occupation? Letter A, the Second Philippine Republic and the 1943 Constitution. B, the Commonwealth Government and the 1935 Constitution. C, the Freedom Constitution and the 1987 Constitution. And letter D, the Malolos Republic and the 1899 Constitution. So what is the answer? So for number 13, ang tamang sagot po ay letter A, the Second Philippine Republic and the 1943 Constitution. Si 1943 Constitution is directly associated with the Second Philippine Republic during the Japanese occupation. So during the World War II, the Philippines experienced the Japanese occupation, which resulted in major political changes. So understanding the historical context is important when studying the Second Philippine Republic and its constitution. Okay? So, for review lang, ulitin lang natin, Japanese occupation connected po siya with the Second Philippine Republic and the 1943 Constitution. Okay? So, let's move now with number 14. Number 14, which constitutional development was associated with the period of the Marcos dictatorship? Again, which constitutional development was associated with the period of the Marcos dictatorship? A. 1897 Constitution, B. 1899 Constitution, C. 1973 Constitution, or letter D. 1987 Constitution. So ano ba yung sagot dito sa number 14? So the answer is letter C, the 1973 Constitution. It is associated with the Marcos period and the political changes that occurred during that era. So when studying the 1973 Constitution, syempre, importanteng maintindihan po natin na hindi lamang yung document itself, no? Hindi lang dapat yung document yung maintindihan natin, but also the political circumstances and also the changes in government during the period. Okay, this connection can help students remember the constitutional development more easily. 1973 Constitution to Marcos period. Ano siya? Connected pala. Kapag sinabi natin 1973 Constitution, connected siya with the Marcos period. So that's it. Let's move now with number 15. Ayan, number 15. A student wants to understand the constitutional framework of the Philippines after the restoration of the democratic government following the Marcos era. Which document should the student primarily examine? Letter A, 1935 Constitution, B. 1943 Constitution, C. 1973 Constitution, or letter D. 1987 Constitution. So what is the correct answer for number 15? The correct answer is letter D, the 1987 Constitution. It is the current constitutional framework of the Philippines. It was created following the major political transition that occurred in 1986. So before the 1987 Constitution, the Freedom Constitution served as a transitional framework. So the 1987 Constitution then established their constitutional structure that continues to govern our country. So kaya importante po nating matandaan yung connection no 1986 political transition to Freedom Constitution to 1987 Constitution. Okay? So let's move now with number 16. So ayan, let's move now with number 16. Ano ba yung tanong sa number 16? Why is the study of taxation useful in understanding the Philippine history? So letter A, it shows how governments have generated revenue and managed economic affairs across different periods. B, taxation has always been identical regardless of the government in power. C, taxation is purely a modern economic issue, or letter D, taxes have no connection to political authority. So what is the answer for number 16? So yung tamang sagot po dito sa number 16 is letter A. It shows how governments have generated revenue and managed economic affairs across different periods. Okay? Bakit nga ba sa letter A yung tamang sagot? Because taxation can tell us a lot about how government works. So, hindi lang po siya tungkol sa magkano yung tax. No, it can also tell us how governments collected revenue, how they controlled the economic activity, and how ordinary people were affected by government policies. So, if we study taxation across different periods of the Philippine history, makikita po natin na nagbabago yung tax systems depending on the government, depending on the political situation and economic conditions. So, for example, taxation during the Spanish period was different from taxation during the American period and later Philippine governments. Kaya studying taxation helps us understand the connection between government, between its economy, its society, and the everyday experiences of its people. So that's it. Okay, let's move now with number 17. Ayan, number 17. An elderly resident provides an oral account about an important event in the history of a local community. What is the best approach of a historian? Again, an elderly resident provides an oral account about an important event in the history of a local community. What is the best approach of a historian? So what is the choices? What are the choices? Letter A. Accept the account as completely accurate because it came from an eyewitness. B. Reject the account because oral sources are never reliable. C. Analyze the account critically and compare it with other available evidence. Or letter D. Use only written sources because they are always more reliable. So what is the answer for number 17? The answer is letter C. Analyze the account critically and compare it with other available sources. So bakit nga ba si C yung tamang sagot? Because oral history can be very valuable source, especially when we are studying yung mga local communities, no, yung personal experiences, their traditions and memories. For example, an elderly resident might tell us about an event that happened in their community that was never properly documented in official records. So that testimony can give us information that we might not find elsewhere. Pero kailangan pa rin nating maging critical, of course. Huwag memory or human memory can change over time. We all know that naman. Someone may remember an event differently after many years. So, hindi ibig sabihin na kapag eyewitness siya, automatic na perfect na yung memory niya. The best approach, of course, is to listen to the testimony, document it, analyze it, and compare it with other available evidence. So, ano ba yung lesson dito sa number 17? Oral history is valuable, but it still needs critical evaluation. Okay? So, let's move now with number 18. Number 18, which action best demonstrates responsible promotion of a historical shrine? A. Modernizing the site without considering its historical significance. B. Preserving its historical character while providing accurate information to visitors. C. Replacing historical artifacts with modern replicas without explanation. Or letter D. Focusing exclusively on tourism revenue. So what is the answer for number 18? Ang tamang sagot dito is letter B. Okay, because historical shrines and museums are not simply tourist attractions. Alam naman po natin iyon. They are also part of our cultural and historical heritage. So when we promote a historical site, we should make sure no na preserve pa rin or na ipe-preserve pa rin natin yung historical significance nito while giving various accurate information. For example, if visitors go to a historical shrine, dapat hindi lang sila pumunta para mag-picture, no? They should also understand what happened there, why the place is historically important, and what it tells about the past. Kasi usually, ngayon, no, pumupunta po tayo sa mga historical shrines para mag-picture lang, no? Instagrammable kasi maganda yung background, ayan. So, tourism, no, can help with preservation, but tourism should not become the only priority, syempre. The goal is to balance. Uh, Kailangan nandun yung preservation, syempre nandun si education, historical accuracy, and the public appreciation. Okay? So, number 19. Number 19, a community wants to promote an indigenous cultural performance for tourists. Which approach best demonstrates cultural sensitivity? A. Change the performance completely to satisfy tourist expectations. B. Present the practice accurately while respecting its cultural meaning and the community that owns it. C. Remove its traditional elements to make it more entertaining. Or letter D. Commercialize the practice without consulting the community. So ano po yung tamang sagot dito sa number 19? So the correct answer for number 19 is letter B. Okay, because indigenous cultural practices are not simply entertainment, no? They can present a community's identity, their history, their beliefs, traditions, and also their values. Kaya kapag ipinapakita natin yung isang indigenous practice no to tourists, dapat hindi natin basta-basta baguhin kung ano ba yung totoong meaning nito just to make it more entertaining and marketable. Importanteng respetuhin po natin yung community natin that practices and preserves the tradition. Ideally, the community should also have a voice in deciding how their culture will be presented, how their culture will be explained and shared. No, so cultural promotion should not be about changing the culture for tourists. Instead, dapat ito po yung maging accurate. Dapat siyang maging accurate, dapat siyang maging respectful, contextualized, and community-centered din. Okay? So, last number 20. So, ayan, for number 20, a researcher encounters a traditional religious rite that has been practiced by a community for generations. Which approach best reflects proper historical analysis? So ano-ano ba yung choices natin for number 20? Ayan. Letter A, judge the practice immediately using present-day standards. B, document, understand, and critically evaluate the present or the practice within its historical and cultural context. C, assume that all traditional practice are outdated. Or letter D, preserve the practice without studying its historical meaning. So what is the answer for number 20? So number 20 is letter B. The correct answer is letter B. Because when studying religious rites and rituals, mga anak, kailangan po muna nating maintindihan kung ano yung practice no, within its historical and cultural context. For example, a ritual that may seem unusual to us today might have a specific meaning for the community that practices it. No, it could be connected to their beliefs. It may be connected to their traditions, to their identity, to their history, or relationship with their ancestors and community. Now, as historians, hindi natin dapat agad i-judge yung practice based only on our present-day perspective. First, we need to understand why the practice existed, what it meant to the people, and how it developed over time. Pero importante pa rin, no, yung understanding o yung pagkakaintindi natin doon sa tradition or doon sa culture nila, hindi ibig sabihin na kailangan nating automatically maging agree, no, with their practices. So the proper historical approach is, of course, you have to document it. Next, you have to understand, no, kung ano ba yung practices nila. You have to contextualize. You have to examine the evidence. And lastly, you have to analyze. In this way, we can study traditional religious practices respectfully, while still applying critical historical thinking. So that's it. That's the end of our review in readings in Philippine history. Okay, quick guide lang mga anak na mula sa umpisa. When we say primary source, ulitin lang po natin, it is first hand or direct evidence. Kapag sinabi naman natin secondary source, it is later analysis or interpretation. Ano naman kapag sinabi natin external criticism? Madalas tinatanong natin dito kung authentic ba yung source. Okay? And when we say internal criticism naman, tinatanong usually kung credible ba yung information. Now, ano-ano naman yung mga important sources dito sa review natin? We have Antonio Pigafetta, which is the author of The First Voyage Around the World. We also have Juan de Plasencia, na author ng Customs of the Tagalogs. We also have Emilio Jacinto, which is the author of the Kartilya ng Katipunan, Emilio Aguinaldo na author ng True Version of the Philippine Revolution. Okay? Sa Constitution naman, ulitin lang natin when we say 1897 Constitution, it is the Biyak na Bato Constitution. Okay? Isipin lang natin yung revolution against Spain. When we say 1899, it is the Malolos Constitution. You have to think about the Malolos in the First Philippine Republic. 1935, it is the Commonwealth Constitution. You have to think about the Commonwealth. You have to think about Manuel L. Quezon, the transition toward independence. Okay? 1943, we have the Constitution during the Japanese period. 1973 Constitution, ito yung kay Marcos, the Marcos period. We also have the 1986, which is the Freedom Constitution, and then the 1987 Constitution, which is our present Constitution, democratic government, the current constitutional framework. Okay po? So that's it. I hope meron kayong natutunan with our review kahit 20 items lang yun. Still, no, malaking tulong po sa atin iyon. So I hope meron kayong natutunan. So that's it. Thank you so much, third year and fourth year students.